Hello and welcome back to Talon 101. As expected, Hwoarang did inherit one of his master's moves. This is down 3+4, and this is called Dark Halberd. Baek's input for Dark Halberd was down back 4, and it is indeed 1-for-1 the exact same animation, but of course Hwoarang always makes little twists when inheriting his master's moves. So the first twist is the input, as it is down 3+4 instead of down back 4. The next is that this is a homing low. Baek's down back 4 was not homing at all, so Hwoarang, anytime he throws out Dark Halberd, will catch an opponent stepping. The next part is the reward on hit. This is 6 whole frames of advantage into left flamingo stance, while Baek's Dark Halberd launched an opponent. Now conversely, because it does launch the opponent, on block, it was launched punishable, but Hwoarang's is only -14. That is indeed a buff. And the last part is the input of said move. Now, I did mention it was down back 4 for Baek, and you were allowed to do it in full crouch. So that opened up Baek's full crouch game, as you could threaten it with while standing 2-1. Hwoarang, however, will not be able to do that, as down 3+4 will not trigger or activate Dark Halberd. If you want to use Dark Halberd while in a crouching position, you must crouch cancel into down 3+4. So it's really good to connect it with down back 3 and continue to high crush here, because you usually loop down back 3 over and over again to avoid a jab or throw in a down 4, most especially if that does counter hit. So now, instead of either of those two options, you can get more reward and catch an opponent stepping. The last thing that Hwoarang did do to this move is the reward on counter hit. It will knock down the opponent, and you can pretty much do whatever you like. The floor is yours when it does knock down. So have as much okizeme or pressure to your heart's desire. Of course, I did mention some of the frames, or pretty much all the frames already, but we'll go through it again just to review or refresh the memory, right? So number 1, Dark Halberd comes out at 21 frames. On hit, this is 6 whole frames of advantage into left flamingo stance. And on block, he will never enter left flamingo stance, and it's only -14 on block. Now this load does high crush, and on counter hit, it will knock the opponent down with nothing guaranteed, but you do get all the okizeme in the world, and that is +32. Your opponent cannot mash a Rage Art here, even if you cancel into left flamingo stance with LFS DS3 forward. So, let's go through some of these properties one by one. Let's start with high crushes. So, if an opponent does decide to, let's say, jab, right, immediately after whatever move you do, you can high crush it with down 3+4. And there's a hard limit to how long you can high crush. So if you're -9, don't expect the high crush with down 3+4. It just won't come out, and the opponent's jab will hit you. The hard limit is somewhere around -5. And you can check this with like back 2 into Dark Halberd. Of course, you gotta make sure your input is quick enough. Now, of course, that is -4. I'm cheating there a bit, but more or less that's where it will go. But you're gonna be combining this a lot more with stuff like -1 or -3. Or even -2. Now, key part here is that you can only get access to Dark Halberd in left foot forward. You cannot get access to it in right foot forward, left flamingo stance, or right flamingo stance. So anytime you are in a spot, positive or negative, you can throw out Dark Halberd if you so please. Now, next thing is homing, and that's pretty straightforward. No matter what the opponent does, regardless of the frame situation, your opponent cannot step it. That's +1. That's 0. A homing move is, well, of course, a homing move. Let's go focus on counter hit, because this is the first thing that gets a little bit confusing when you have all those frames, right? So as mentioned earlier, +32. You can do whatever you like, and the fastest thing to fail-safe your Oki is to always do LFS down 4 or LFS F4. Those are your best 2 options, but if you want to expand it, cancel in with LFS DF3-4 or DF3 forward, and then go for a down 3-4, an LFS down 4, or even another LFS F4. Of course, by canceling, you would put yourself in front of the opponent's face, so doing it without the cancel will make this move safe. As you see, that comes out -9 on block instead of coming out at -10 in front of their face. But then, how many people do punish this? It's quite a low number. But the reason why you do need to use those is because sometimes LFS back 4-3 will not hit. Of course, you'd have to cancel to come in to hit the opponent with it, but at that point, you could use better options as you are at a big frame advantage. Not unless you want to be really, really safe. The choice is yours when it comes to what you want to do with this big 50-50 mini heat engager situation while stuck in left flamingo stance. Now let's move to an on-hit situation. So if the opponent does decide to move after down T+4 and they're stepping towards the right, you need to rely on double claymore, your power crush, as this tracks towards an opponent sidestepping or sidewalking towards the right. The next thing you can use is switch plasma blade. This is LFS up forward 4. Now this is a bit on the risky end, but it can send the message to the opponent that you're willing to go all in to prevent them from sidewalking towards the right. Now, of course, those are two mids, so you need to pair it up with a low, and that's LFS down 4, combat low. And this is very, very good for pretty much everyone in the cast. Barring, of course, like the characters with really strong sidesteps, you'll have a bit of a problem versus sidestep, right? But if you're not against someone like Lily, then combining these mids with that singular low is pretty strong. And it goes the same way when the opponent does decide to sidestep or sidewalk towards the left. So instead of you using LFS back forward 3, or instead of using LFS DF3 or LFS up forward 4, you are using LFS back forward 3. And that's going to be really, really handy. So it is the safest mid you're throwing out here. And you're pairing it up just like with sidestep right with combat low, LFS down 4. It's more or less pseudo homing for specific characters. Again, barring the characters with really, really strong sidesteps, because it's +6. It's not exactly the same as EF1-3. So again, that's the little twist that Hwoarang continues to, put to his master's move. But if the mids do not work, your failsafe is to always go with LFS F4. This is never a bad idea, and you want your opponent to more or less respect this situation as much as possible and take away their decision-making to implement the sidestep. Force them rather to go into a backdash or a basic hold back. This way you can start using moves like LFS forward 3 or LFS up forward 3-4, or even your good old down 3-4, even if it's quite risky. So that pretty much covers everything when it comes to Dark Halberd. Very straightforward low. There's not much to really think about besides a character matchup in terms of what kind of punish they get on -14, and do they have the movement to avoid LFS down 4 with a sidestep right. On counter hit, or as long as you're able to convert it properly, you will get a lot of advantage with Dark Halberd. So that is more or less what Hwoarang has done to his master's move, and will always come in handy when you need to prevent an opponent from stepping away from Hwoarang, or even just high crushing straight into pressure. So again, that's everything I know about this move. That has been the lesson for this video. Again, I've been Frontier, and thank you for watching.